Seventh Sector. This is a game that's going to absolutely torture you, and sometimes it would seem impossible to solve some of these puzzles, but it's a game that really tests your patience and perseverance. I finished this game in several days. It took a little bit of time, but all the solutions were found by myself. I didn't look up any information or any other videos, so all my solutions are my own. And in this video, I'm going to explain the reasoning behind some of the hardest puzzles that I've had in this game that I've encountered, the puzzles that have given me the most difficult time. And at the end of the video, I will show the solutions to each problem. So this way, it gives an opportunity for people to solve the puzzles on their own, if they simply just want a little bit of explanation of what they're supposed to be looking for. That'll be the first part of the video, and those who just simply want the answers will have to go to the latter part of the video to find the actual solution. So let's dive right into it. So this is the first challenging puzzle that I've come across. The purpose of this puzzle, or this challenge, is to activate the 4 buttons on the left machine. They all have to be lit up in order for you to progress. So in order for you to light all of these 4 lights on, you have to guess. I shouldn't say guess. You are supposed to input the picture that you see at the top in a specific sequence. And to do that, you basically have to give it some tries, like I was doing at this point, is just trying to see what lights up a button. And as you keep doing that, you try to see the pattern between which puzzle follows. So that each puzzle follows another puzzle before it and after it. So for example, if one puzzle comes in first, then after that puzzle, there's a specific one that follows the first one, and so forth. The third one follows the second, and the fourth one follows the third. They don't all have to be in a specific order. You just need to realize whatever the first puzzle you get that lights up the button, the second one that follows has to follow that specific puzzle, if that makes sense. Basically, each puzzle follows another in order, but they can be randomly shifted. So puzzle number 1 can be the first button that you light up, but then a few tries later, it could be a different puzzle that starts with that first light, right? So you just have to keep trying and figuring out which puzzle follows another puzzle. And you just have to memorize in your mind that whenever you see a certain puzzle and you say, okay, I remember this one, the next one that follows is this. So you have to remember which puzzle that follows after, and so forth. And that's the way that you solve this one. It took me a lot of trying. It's really difficult, but it's a puzzle that tests your memory and recognizing how the machine works. In this puzzle, it's not as complicated as the previous one. All you really have to do is try to match the symbols at the very top for each of the 4 plugs and match it with the bottom one. And to figure out which plug fits with which light, you have to look at the top display that each plug has. It keeps blinking 4 times, and then it stops for a moment, and then it continues again. And it keeps doing that, letting you know what sequence it corresponds to. So you have to keep an eye on the display for each plug and try to match it with the lights in the middle to see which one corresponds to it. And that's the way that this puzzle works. And at the very bottom, right here, you can see which light it corresponds to. So the three triangles, for example, correspond to a specific plug. So you have to keep looking at the plug display. Then you look at the lights in the middle to see what it's showing, to see which one you need to flip over and over. And the other one is to look at the bottom symbols to see which one it corresponds to, so that you can match it with the top plug. And that's the way that it works. It takes a little bit of trying, but it's not super complicated. But it did give me a few minutes to figure out. This puzzle is a little bit confusing at first, but it's actually quite simple. What you are trying to do in this puzzle is to create a path from the yellow light to the red light, or the orange light. You're only given a certain amount of time before the screen shuts off, like it is right there. And then you're given a limited amount of time to look at the picture and figure out what you want to do to achieve that. The confusing part is figuring out how the screen square actually works. And after a few tries, what you will notice is that each square that you click on changes. Now, whatever square you click, it will copy that image for your next try. In this case, as I click each square, the next square that I click on copies the previous square that I came from. And the blue screen in the middle also shows what you currently have. So that's also kind of a helper to let you know what image you copied, right? So as I click, I copy the square, and as I move to the next square, I use the previous square's image to input in the new square. So that's the simplest way for me to explain it. You just have to play around with it and then try to create a path. And I don't think there's a one simple answer to this. You could create multiple ways to get from the yellow light to the orange light. But the most straightforward, the most straight line that you can get, the better. You just want to get it over with because you have a limited time, right? But that's the way this mechanism works. Each square that you click on copies the image. The next square you click on, it inputs the image that you've copied previously. Now this puzzle is a little bit confusing. It took me a little time to figure out exactly what was happening. And it's a straightforward puzzle from the surface. On the surface of it, you have 5 buttons here that all do a specific function, and they're pretty straightforward in describing what they are. It also shows you the percentage of available power, so you can't just flip them all on. So you have to choose what you want and what you don't want to be on. And as you click around the buttons, you can see what each button does. And the purpose of this puzzle is to try to open the door at the very end of the train car. So you need to figure out how to get to the door and get the very last this console on the wall that's red with the red light. That's what you're trying to activate, so that's what opens the door for you. So the trick here is to play around with the buttons to see which one opens what, and how can you use the least energy to get all the functions that you need to be working to get the door to open for you. So this one was a simple test and trial, trying to see what each one does. But the important buttons here is the console, because that's what controls the door. But it's also trying to get to the door with some of the functions off that presents a challenge. The minefield. This one was frustrating. It's not a very difficult puzzle because there's only so much that you can do. But it is something that was a little bit frustrating for me. And the way that this puzzle works is it's hard to describe without giving too much away. It's not a very complicated puzzle. It's pretty straightforward. You just have to figure out what works and what doesn't. All the tools are given to you. There's nothing very, very powerful or very specific or tricky about this. It's just thinking about a problem and trying to find a backwards way to approach it. At some points, I was going a certain way, a certain direction to solve a puzzle, and I thought that's kind of what the game is trying to get me to do, but it turned out that that wasn't the case. Yes, the goal was to do that, what I thought, but the way that you do it is not how I thought it was supposed to work. It's pretty simple, but it's a trial and error sort of approach to this puzzle. You just have to focus on trying to not think one straight way about solving this one. It appears to be one way that you're supposed to do it, but it just doesn't work no matter how many times you try. So you have to kind of fail a few times to realize that what you're trying to do is correct, but the way you were doing it is a little opposite of what you're supposed to do. So just be patient and try to see a slightly different approach to the same problem. Now, this puzzle right here was the only time in this game when I was able to solve it simply almost by chance, even though I understood the principle of the puzzle. I understood the general idea of it, but the solution simply came to me a little bit unexpected. I spent quite a bit of time one night playing it here, and I was trying to come up with all sorts of solutions for this one, and I couldn't do it. The next day I came back in and I solved it within the first minute. And I can't really say that it was exactly what I had in mind, but it kind of worked out. Anyways, that was a little bit of a lucky fluke for me, but I think I still understood the general idea of how this one works. The purpose of this puzzle obviously is to get through the door. You have this area right here. There's only so much that you can do, so it's pretty straightforward of what you need to be using. It's just a matter of a sequence that needs to be entered, and you just have to use your senses, visual and audio senses, to figure out exactly what needs to be done. In this puzzle, you are going from left side to the right side. You have these wheels, two wheels that are turning, and you're trying to make it to the other side. The purpose of this one is to find a way that allows you to cross the dangerous areas with the flames. And to do that is to use the wheel to your advantage. So there are several approaches to this one that I took, and I thought it was enough, but there's different tools available to you. So just keep trying different ways, and when you think you found the solution and it doesn't work, think a little bit ahead. Maybe there's something more to it. Now, and then this next puzzle, you enter the what would I call it, like a corridor with the windows and the people are behind. And the way that what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to get to the end and enter a specific code into the system. And there's 4 numbers available to you. So there's supposed to be a specific number that you enter. The way that you get this number is by looking around this corridor area, looking around your surroundings, and trying to figure out the deficit. If I don't give it away, try to figure out the deficit in comparison with what things should be, is my answer. You also have to be careful in in the environment, not just for the information of what's expected of you, but also getting the right numbers. If you do the math wrong, then obviously the numbers will be off, so it has to be precise. So take your time when trying to obtain the information that you need, is what I would say. Now, this puzzle was very difficult. The key to this puzzle is right here, this screen. Now, if I can just go back here for a sec. This screen right here is kind of your helper. This is the script that you're supposed to follow. It's right there behind you on the wall. All the colors are represented here, and what you're supposed to do is to use this information to somehow figure out the code. All the colors and all the symbols are located throughout this little map here, and you're supposed to put it all together in order to figure out what the code is. That's as simple as that. It's just a matter of remembering. Again, memory is used in this puzzle as well. Remembering what each symbol, what is the color, and what is the symbol associated with that specific color. And then trying to remember all of that information to then try to input into the code. This puzzle was actually very difficult for me. The hardest part of this one is trying to figure out what you're even supposed to do. Again, this game doesn't really give you a whole lot of information. You just kind of have to look at certain things and try to understand what is this mechanism, what do the buttons do, what is changing when I'm moving things. So that was the hardest part for me. So the answer to this puzzle, again, came from just paying attention to subtle details on the map that are provided to you. There are some visual clues that tell you what you're supposed to achieve. And once you figure that out, then you kind of, at least you have a goal, right? So look around this little map to figure out what exactly they're asking you to achieve. And once you do that, then figure out how this system works. And the way that the system works is that the button on the bottom tells you what area to use. The button on the top tells you where that is going to be affected, or where is it going to take place. So the bottom, you select the area to take from. The top is where you want it to go. That's as simple as I can explain it. And the orange sections on these cylinders, they also provide you a way to break down some of these blue squares. That's what they're for. These yellow lines are not really supposed to go anywhere. They're not supposed to move. They're just there permanently, but you're supposed to use them to achieve what it is you're trying to achieve. This one was a little bit difficult for me as well. I struggled quite a bit with this one. Again, we have a few different moving pieces here. We're trying to get to the other side, gate 041 right here. We have this button on the bottom that activates this little ball that just wants to go. No matter how much you try to control it or make it stop or not move very fast, an arm comes out from the ground and grabs it. So clearly you're supposed to move across the ground, but the arm is preventing you from doing so. In order to get it across, you're supposed to use the rest of the map. There's something about this number 1 that's blue, the rest of them are orange, and then there's this gate in the middle, gate 041, it's doing something. And you have 3 different moving parts to all of this. So the key to solving this one is to figure out what each section of this puzzle does, like the gate 041, the yellow machine, the lights on the left, the arm on the ground. That's all your pieces. So once you figure all what everything does, then you can kind of figure out the logic of what are we trying to achieve here and how do we use these particular sections to achieve the goal. Some of these parts you cannot use right away. You can see how they're going to be used later, but you can't get to it like we just saw with the yellow ball. The arm comes out and it grabs it. So that's part of the puzzle, but obviously it's not working at the moment. So try to figure out what else you can do to help yourself. This was a difficult puzzle of the game, getting to this protesters square and trying to figure out exactly what we're trying to do here. As you can see, I was trying to move some boxes around. That was one of my solutions, but in the end, it didn't do absolutely anything. So in this one, to really, it's actually quite simple. There's not much to it. As you can see here, we have a square with a bunch of lights. We have these buttons on the ground. They light up as you float around the button. And as you go across over here, you have this this machine, a bunch of signs, and so forth. The purpose of this puzzle is to simply see what's around you, try to activate or energize whatever you can, and then once that gets done, see what the next step is. Once you get to a point where the light is activated, like that, then the real challenge begins. And to be honest, the hardest part about this puzzle for me was not the logic, it was not being aware of controls that are available to you. I'll just leave it at that. That was the most frustrating part here, because I figured everything out. It was actually quite simple, but I couldn't move forward because there was things I was able to do and I didn't know I could. So I'll just leave it at that. So just be aware, know all your controls. If you are unaware of something, just make sure that you give it a quick try to make sure that you've tried everything, right? That's my suggestion. At this stage of the puzzle, it is, there's not much really thinking going on at this one. This is just about trial and error. You know, you try something, it works, or you try something and it doesn't work, and you try to figure out why did something work and the other one didn't. So what are you trying to do? Again, this is just using all the tools available to you. There's not much really to do here, so just make sure that you are using everything that's given to you on your keyboard. This quick puzzle right here, it was kind of easy. There wasn't it wasn't too complicated, but there was one portion of it that prevented you from doing your job. So the way I would say is that if you ever do something that that you are supposed to do, it usually opens up another opportunity for something else, right? Like if something was there, you did something to it, and there's usually a secondary, I would say not challenge, but maybe there's a secondary puzzle after that allows you to continue on so that you can solve more things. So that would just say, in this case, just when you solve a specific area here, pay closer attention to that area, see if there's anything more to it. I don't want to get into it too deep without revealing it, but it was something that kind of slowed me down slightly because I wasn't paying attention. But once you activate, I'm just going to repeat myself, once you activate a specific portion here of something that you've done, Usually there's more to it that allows you to do more. This particular puzzle is actually quite simple. I didn't really have a whole lot of time, a whole lot of problems with this one. You have 5 sequences of letters, of random letters, and you have 5 turning wheels. They all have letters on them. So all you're trying to do is match them up. I would say this puzzle was probably one of the worst in the game. Again, anything to do with computers and programming is very confusing. It's a lot of numbers, it's a lot of information, a lot of clicking around, and a lot of lack of understanding of what you're supposed to be looking at. In this case, the simplest solution that I can give is to learn the names of each plug and see what you're trying to actually do with those plugs, because they are responsible for specific sections. They control certain things. So what you want to do is just pay attention to the plug names, and go into the computer system and see how they are correlated, and see how you can manipulate the system to achieve your goal. That's the simplest way of doing it. Again, this is a trial and error sort of puzzle where you have to try different things and see what works, what doesn't work, and then try to change things one at a time and see what the difference is. And as you keep doing that, you start to realize and get better at this system. You start to understand the way it works. So it's just gotta keep trying. At this stage, you're looking at 2 blocks, and all you're trying to do is basically match the 2 columns. That's as simple as that. It's a very simple puzzle, which at this point of the game you're kind of happy to do. It's not too complicated, because overall this game has been very challenging, and it's nice to solve simpler puzzles just to get the game going straight, just to get the game going forward, so you can end it. Because at this point it was getting pretty challenging and pretty tiresome. But yes, both blocks are similar idea. Block 1 and block 2, you're trying to match left side to the right side. And there's only so many things that you can do with the controls. You can move pieces around. The left side doesn't move, only the right side moves. So you're trying to match up the right side to the left side. This puzzle is just playing around with different angles, different views, to try to make up a symbol in the best way possible, and then making sure that it matches the right side. That was the difficult part about this one, because even when you do find something that looks like something specific, you still have to make sure that it's facing the right way. Now I've reached the point where I've explained all the solutions, and now let's take a look at all the answers to each puzzle.